If you guys are in the market for a 5700 XT, you're most likely going to want to get an AIB partner card like this one here, the Windforce. Now, previously we took a look at the Mech OC from MSI. If you haven't seen that review, I'll put the link up here, where that did a lot better than the reference design in terms of noise and both thermals. And the Windforce, featuring triple 80mm fans, also weighing in at over 900 grams, also promises to keep the noise down and the temperatures low. So today we're going to be testing this card against the Mech OC, the reference 2070 Super, 2060 Super, and also the original 5700 non-XT to see how much bang for buck this $420 MSRP gaming OC card brings to the table. Let's roll those benchmarks. So analyzing those gaming benchmark numbers for you, you can see with this card right here, it does come very close to the Mech OC. It's pretty much neck and neck in every single title I tested at both 1080p and 1440p. In terms of its positioning against the RTX 2060 Super, it does beat it out comfortably at both 1080p and 1440p in most titles, though it does fall short to the 2070 Super. However, the 2070 Super does cost about $100 USD more on average. But one thing I will state about the 2060 Super and the 2070 Super is it's quite viable to overclock those cards. When we did overclock the Gigabyte card right here, it did respond quite well, but the problem was that we're now drawing an extra 70 watts from the wall. And I know myself personally, I wouldn't be too keen on that extra 9% performance at a cost of roughly 70 watts. Though one thing we did do was undervolt it, and that did perform quite well, where we lost only a few percent in FPS, but we did drop roughly 30 watts from the wall. So undervolting the 5700 XT is a viable option if you want to use this day in, day out and game for long periods of time. Though getting on to the most important part with the 5700 XT Windforce is of course the fan speeds and temperatures. Here we had on auto fan speeds, they averaged out about 40%, and then we saw 74 degrees maximum with 46 decibels of noise. So the automatic fan speeds were a little bit janky in my opinion, especially when we compare it to 60% flat, where the noise did increase a little bit, but we got a massive drop in temperatures, where I think the PWM probably needs an update of some sort, where it was fluctuating a little bit, and that was causing the temperatures to increase to above 70 degrees C, which is still better than the reference model, though when we see locking in a manual 60%, it does a lot better, and that easily is the sweet spot here, where we ramped it up to 80%, we only saw a 3-degree drop in temperatures, but a massive increase in noise, and then 100% was bearing into that line of unbearable, and only see a 1-degree and 4-degree drop respectively against 80 and 60% fan speeds. Though going back to the overclocks, we saw here with the memory we got a maximum speed of 915 megahertz, and then the core speeds max out in the VBIOS at 2150 megahertz, and then averaged out over a Heaven benchmark, we saw the clock speeds going to around 2.1 gigahertz, though I found personally with the 5700 XT, overclocks are mainly related to those memory speeds, and if you can increase them substantially, then you will get a big increase in performance. Looking at the side of the card, we've got an 8+6 pin PCIe power requirement, and the power limit in the VIA BIOS goes up plus 50% to make a total limit of 150%. Move over the rear of the card, we've got one HDMI 2.0 out and 3 DisplayPort outs. Over the rear of the card, we've got a backplate, and then on the side, we've got the Gigabyte logo, but we don't have any RGB or any RGB control on this card. So it's just a simple, clean black and gray look, where the card itself measures in at 47mm tall by 112mm wide by 280mm long. Now, other features you do get with this card is also the ability to turn on Radeon image sharpening with upscaling or just sharpening the actual image itself. I found in my personal use scenarios that I prefer the original native image, just like NVIDIA's DLSS technology, where I prefer the original image on that as well, even though the upscaling will give you a significant FPS boost if you're going, for instance, in F1 2019 from 1080p to 1440p. Also, with the new Navi cards, there is a media encoder on board, and testing this out, I did prefer the NVIDIA solution, though, again, as I said in the Mech OC review, pretty much if you're getting into streaming, this card will be a fantastic choice, where if you know that you're getting really good at streaming, you can then, I'm sure, afford to buy a better graphics card or a better streaming setup. Though with all that out of the way, it's now conclusion time with the 5700 XT WindForce Gaming OC. Now, personally with the WindForce cards, I've always liked it when they've hit in at MSRP. So I'd like to see them bring out a non-OC model, where in this case I can only find that the OC model is raising the clock speeds out of the box as opposed to the memory speeds. And as we saw with overclocking, the memory speeds are more important for getting extra performance in FPS out of these graphics cards. So $420 US MSRP, and in Australia I'm yet to be updated on the pricing, which I will put a link in the description below. I would prefer this over the reference design, and in terms of comparing it against the Mech OC, I think it's up in the air. Whichever you can get cheapest in your local area, I'd pick either or. They're both good cards and they both do a better job compared to the reference model. However, me personally, I would like to see the non-OC model coming in at MSRP, because I know with Gigabyte WindForce cards, they've always hit in at MSRP for the non-OC model, so I'd like to see that hit the market. And then at $399 US, it'd be one of the best mid-range or high-end, depends on how you look at it, GPUs to get in the market right now. And now it's time for the question of the day from Shiitake Mush. And now we're closing out this review, but before we do, we've got the question of the day from Olivia Duivestein. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And she asks, is 175 euro good for a GTX 1070 used? And to answer that question, I'm just gonna compare it to what we pay here on the Gold Coast or around Southeast Queensland, and that's around that 300 Aussie dollars. So 175 euro is coming under that, so I would consider that a pretty good deal, especially when people tell me in Europe, depending on the country, that they pay more than we do in Australia for graphics cards. So I'd definitely snap that up for 175 euro. And another good thing about the 1070 is its price point with its VRAM. And believe it or not, when people, especially if you're looking to put that in another PC and flip it, people always do pay attention to that VRAM number. If it's got 8 gigabytes of VRAM on board, some people might think it's as good as a 5700 XT, for example, when there's a clear difference in performance between those two cards. And with all that out of the way, let us know what you think of the WindForce OC model. Do you think it's good to go, or would you like to see something changed on this card? Me personally, I'd like to see them put a gloss black finish on the fan shroud and match the fans itself, and perhaps change the color on the side from gray to something else more vibrant, whether it be red or white or something like that. It'd give it a new, fresh aesthetic. I think the current aesthetic is a little bit boring. That's my feedback for Gigabyte personally. But when all's said and done, when it comes down to gaming, this thing delivers on the thermals, noise, and performance. And I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Don't forget to slap that like button on the way out for us. Peace out for now. Bye.